He thought she was dead for 19 years, until the Harvard valedictorian with his exact same eyes shook his hand at graduation. What Daniel Cross never imagined was that the woman he once loved had faked her own death to protect their unborn child from his powerful, manipulative father. Now, as billion-dollar secrets spill into the headlines and a young man discovers his entire life has been built on lies, three hearts stand at a crossroads where forgiveness seems impossible and love might not be enough. Watch as a family torn apart by deception and fear fights to rebuild what was stolen from them. 19 years of memories that can never be replaced. Subscribe now and comment below if you believe some family secrets should stay buried, because this story of betrayal and second chances will make you question everything you thought you knew about love. The morning sun sparkled over Harvard's campus. Students in black caps and gowns filled the green lawn. Parents beamed with pride as they took photos of their children on graduation day. Daniel Cross adjusted his blue silk tie as he walked toward the stage. At 38, he was already one of the richest men in America. His dark hair had touches of gray at the temples, and fine lines appeared at the corners of his eyes when he smiled. Today he wasn't smiling. Giving speeches made him nervous, even after all these years. "Mr. Cross, we're ready for you," said a woman with a clipboard. "Please take your seat on stage." Daniel nodded and followed her. As a major donor to Harvard, they had asked him to hand out some special awards. He didn't want to be here, but his father had insisted it would be good for the family business. From his seat on stage, Daniel watched as hundreds of students filed in. The air buzzed with excitement. He scanned the crowd, thinking how young they all looked. Had he ever been that young? That hopeful? "Ladies and gentlemen," the dean's voice boomed through the speakers. "It is my honor to introduce this year's valedictorian, Eli Bennett." A tall young man approached the podium. He wore his graduation gown with pride. His skin was a warm brown color, and his smile lit up his whole face. Daniel sat up straighter. Something about the young man caught his attention. "Thank you, Dean Richards," Eli said into the microphone. Daniel froze. That voice. He knew that voice. It sounded like... But that was impossible. "My journey to this stage began 19 years ago," Eli continued, "with a mother who believed in me before I could even read." Daniel leaned forward. He stared at Eli's face, the shape of his eyes, the line of his jaw. It was like looking into a mirror from the past. The boy had his eyes. His exact same eyes. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. His hands grew cold and sweaty. It couldn't be. It wasn't possible. Eli finished his speech with words about hope and the future. The crowd clapped wildly. Daniel barely heard it. His mind was racing, desperately trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Later, when it was time to hand out awards, Daniel moved like a robot. His body knew what to do, but his mind was elsewhere. "Eli Bennett," the dean called. The young man approached. Up close, the resemblance was even stronger. Daniel extended his hand, trying to keep it from shaking. "Congratulations," he managed to say. Their hands met. Daniel felt like he'd been struck by lightning. Cameras flashed all around them. "Thank you, sir," Eli said with a smile. Daniel couldn't speak. All he could think was, "He's me. He's me." After the ceremony ended, Daniel couldn't leave. He stood at the edge of the reception, watching Eli talk with friends and teachers. Who was this boy? How could he look so much like him? Then he saw her. A woman in a navy blue dress walked through the crowd toward Eli. She moved with grace, her head held high. Her dark skin glowed in the sunlight. Her black hair was shorter than he remembered, cut in an elegant style that framed her face. Daniel's world tilted sideways. He knew that walk, that profile, that smile. The glass in his hand slipped and shattered on the ground. People turned to look, but he didn't notice. "Maya?" he whispered. As if she heard him across the crowded lawn, the woman turned. Their eyes met. Her smile vanished. She froze mid-step, like a deer caught in headlights. Daniel moved toward her without thinking. People stepped aside, sensing the strange energy between them. The noise of the crowd faded away until there was only silence. "Daniel," she said. Her voice was just as he remembered. "You're alive," he said. The words sounded stupid, but he couldn't think of anything else to say. Maya glanced around nervously. "We shouldn't talk here." She led him away from the crowd, toward a small garden hidden behind tall hedges. It was quiet there, with only the sound of birds and distant laughter. "How?" Daniel asked when they were alone. "The explosion." They found your car. Maya took a deep breath. I wasn't in the car when it exploded, but the police said the police were wrong, Maya said firmly. Or they were paid to be wrong. Daniel's mind raced. 19 years, Maya. For 19 years I thought you were dead. I know. Her eyes were filled with sadness and something else. Fear. And Eli, Daniel couldn't finish the question. He already knew the answer. Yes, Maya said quietly. He's your son. Daniel felt like all the air had been sucked from his lungs. He reached for a nearby bench and sat down heavily. Why? He asked. Why did you let me believe you were dead? Why did you keep my son from me? Maya's face hardened. Your father made it very clear what would happen if I stayed in your life. My father? Daniel looked up, shock giving way to anger. What does he have to do with this? Everything, Maya said. He told me I would ruin your future, that no one would accept the son of Daniel Cross and a black woman as the heir to the Cross fortune. Daniel shook his head in disbelief. That's not possible. He wouldn't. He did, Maya cut him off. And he made sure I understood that if I didn't disappear, he would destroy me and our unborn child. Daniel's world crumbled around him. His father had known Maya was pregnant, had faked her death, had kept his son from him for 19 years. You kept my son from me, he whispered, the pain of it almost unbearable. That night Daniel drove to his father's estate outside Boston. The big stone house where he grew up looked cold and unwelcoming in the moonlight. Just like his childhood, Richard Cross sat in his study, a glass of whiskey in his hand. At 60, he still looked strong, though his hair was now completely white. He raised an eyebrow when Daniel stormed in without knocking. Daniel, he said calmly, this is an unexpected visit. Is it true? Daniel demanded. Did you threaten Maya? Did you fake her death? Richard took a slow sip of his whiskey. I see you've met young Eli Bennett. Answer me. Daniel slammed his hand on his father's desk. Richard didn't flinch. I did what was necessary to protect our family legacy. You were too young, too foolish to see what that relationship would cost us. Cost us. Daniel's voice shook with rage. You stole 19 years from me. You kept my son hidden from me. It was mercy, Richard said coldly. She'd have ruined you. Look at what you've accomplished without that distraction. Daniel stared at his father in disgust. Distraction? She was the woman I loved, the mother of my child. And now you know, Richard said. What will you do about it? The boy has a good life. Maya has built something for herself. Will you destroy that out of selfishness? Daniel turned away, unable to look at his father any longer. You don't know what love is. You never did. He stormed out of the house and drove back to his penthouse in Boston. There in the dark, he pulled out an old photo from his desk. It showed a younger version of himself with Maya at a Harvard party. They were smiling, his arm around her waist, her head against his shoulder. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, I lost them both. The next morning, Daniel went back to Harvard. He told his assistant, Vanessa, that he needed to discuss a new scholarship program with the administration. In truth, he couldn't stay away. He needed to see Maya again. Vanessa frowned at him from across the car. At 33, she was beautiful and ambitious. They had dated briefly after she started working for him, but it hadn't worked out. Still, she remained fiercely loyal and fiercely protective. You seem distracted, she said. Is everything okay? Fine, Daniel said, looking out the window. Just thinking about the scholarship details. Vanessa didn't believe him, but she didn't push. At the campus, Daniel spotted Maya leaving the administration building. She saw him too and quickly turned in the opposite direction. I'll meet you back here in an hour, he told Vanessa, then hurried after Maya. He caught up to her near the science building. Maya, wait! She stopped but didn't turn around. What do you want, Daniel? Just to talk, he said. Please. Maya finally faced him. In the morning light, he could see the years on her face, fine lines around her eyes, a small scar near her left temple that hadn't been there before. We have nothing to talk about, she said. We have 19 years to talk about, Daniel countered. We have a son to talk about. Maya looked around nervously. Not here. Someone might hear you. Then have lunch with me, he pleaded softly. No fights, please. After a long moment, Maya nodded. 1 hour. That's all. They found a quiet cafe off campus. Maya ordered tea. Daniel got coffee. For a while they just sat in awkward silence. You look good, Daniel said finally. Success suits you. Maya gave a small smile. I've done okay. My nonprofit helps women start businesses in low-income communities. And Eli? He's incredible. Valedictorian at 19. Pride shone in Maya's eyes. He skipped a grade in elementary school. He's always been smart, like his father. The words hung between them. He doesn't know about me, does he? Daniel asked. Maya shook her head. I told him his father died before he was born. A car accident? Why didn't you ever tell him the truth? And say what? That his grandfather threatened to destroy us. That his father's family wouldn't accept him? Maya's voice cracked slightly. I wanted to protect him. Daniel reached across the table and touched her hand. From me? Maya pulled her hand away. From the pain I went through. She explained how she had rebuilt her life after the fake accident. How she had changed her name, moved to Chicago, and given birth to Eli. How she had worked multiple jobs while getting her degree, eventually starting a small nonprofit that grew into something meaningful. I never stopped thinking about you, Daniel admitted, even after all these years. Maya looked at him with sad eyes. I had to stop thinking about you to survive. Daniel felt the weight of those lost years. What now? Do we tell Eli the truth? No, Maya said firmly. Not yet. He's just graduated. His whole life is ahead of him. I won't throw this at him now. Daniel wanted to argue but held back. Then let me know him, he said, his voice trembling. Even if he never knows me. Later that afternoon, Daniel spotted Eli in the university library. The young man was packing books into a backpack, preparing to leave campus for good. Impressive speech yesterday, Daniel said, approaching him. Eli looked up, surprised. Mr. Cross, thank you. Please call me Daniel. He extended his hand again, steadier this time. Eli shook it firmly. My mom said you fund the scholarship program that helped me attend Harvard. I wanted to thank you personally. Daniel's heart ached. If only the boy knew. It was nothing. Students like you make it worthwhile. They ended up talking for almost an hour. Eli told him about his plans to work for a year before medical school. Daniel listened, soaking up every detail of his son's life. People say business success is all about cutting corners, Eli said at one point. But my mom taught me differently. She says integrity matters more than money. Your mother sounds very wise, Daniel said, fighting back tears. She is, Eli beamed with pride. She built everything from nothing. I hope I can be half as strong as she is. Daniel nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. From a distance, Maya watched them talking. Her heart was torn in two, happy to see them together, terrified of what might happen next. That evening, Maya visited Professor Alan Yates, her old mentor. At 55, he was the only person from her Harvard days who knew she was still alive. He had helped her disappear all those years ago. His office was cluttered with books and papers, just as it had been when she was a student. He found you, Yates said simply when she told him about Daniel. Yes. Maya paced the small room. What do I do now? Run again? Yates shook his head. Running again would destroy all of you. Eli deserves to know his father. Daniel deserves to know his son. And Richard, he's still powerful, still dangerous. You're not a scared 20-year-old anymore, Yates reminded her. You have resources now, friends, a reputation. Maya sank into a chair. I can't lose the peace I've built, Alan. I can't go through that pain again. Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Daniel stared out at the Boston skyline. His phone buzzed with messages from his company, but he ignored them all. His mind was filled with images of Maya and Eli, his family. The family he never knew he had. He made a decision. Tomorrow he would confront his father again. He would expose the lies, the manipulation. He would make Richard pay for what he had done. I can't lose her twice, he whispered to the empty room. That night, both Maya and Daniel lay awake in separate beds, miles apart but connected by the same thoughts, the same fears, the same hopes. After 19 years, their lives had collided again. Nothing would ever be the same. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of Richard Cross's estate as Daniel parked his car in the circular driveway. The house seemed even colder in daylight, a giant stone prison filled with old money and dark secrets. Daniel straightened his shoulders and marched to the front door. A housekeeper let him in with a polite nod. Where is he? Daniel asked. In the study, sir. Richard sat behind his massive oak desk, looking through papers. He glanced up when Daniel entered, his face showing no surprise. Back so soon? Richard asked. I thought you'd be busy reuniting with your long-lost family. Daniel closed the door behind him. I'm pulling our investments from the Palmer project. Richard's eyebrows shot up. That's $100 million. I know. It's dirty money. The whole deal stinks and you know it. Don't be dramatic, Daniel. Business isn't about being clean, it's about being smart. Daniel placed his hands on the desk, leaning forward. I'm also withdrawing our support from Senator Williams, and I'm donating $50 million to Maya's foundation. Richard's face turned red. He stood up slowly. You will do no such thing. Watch me. Daniel turned to leave. I built this empire for you, Richard shouted. Everything I did was for your future. Daniel spun around. You built it for yourself. You destroyed my family for your precious legacy. That woman and her child were not your family. They were a mistake, a distraction from your real potential. The words hit Daniel like a slap. Her name is Maya and his name is Eli, my son. Richard's face twisted with anger. You ungrateful? His words cut off suddenly. He clutched his chest, his face draining of color. Dad? Daniel rushed forward as Richard collapsed into his chair. Can't breathe, Richard gasped. Daniel grabbed the phone on the desk and called for an ambulance. As he waited, he loosened his father's tie and held his hand. Hold on, Dad, he whispered. Just hold on. The ambulance came quickly. The paramedics worked on Richard, placing an oxygen mask over his face before loading him onto a stretcher. Daniel followed them outside. Heart attack? He asked one of the medics. Looks like it. We're taking him to Boston Memorial. Daniel watched as they closed the ambulance doors. The siren wailed as it raced down the driveway. He stood there long after it disappeared, his anger now mixed with worry and guilt. 2 days later, Daniel sat in a hospital chair next to his father's bed. Richard looked smaller somehow, with tubes and wires connecting him to beeping machines. The doctors said he would recover, but he needed rest. A soft knock on the door made Daniel look up. Maya stood in the doorway, hesitant. You came, Daniel said, surprised. Maya nodded, stepping into the room. You sounded upset on the phone. How is he? Stable. The doctors say he'll pull through. Maya approached the bed slowly. Even in sleep. Richard Cross looked intimidating, the man who had changed the course of her life with threats and lies. I never thought I'd see him again, she said quietly. Richard's eyes fluttered open. He stared at Maya for a long moment as if seeing a ghost. You, he whispered. Maya stiffened but didn't back away. Hello, Richard. Why are you here? His voice was weak but still sharp. Because your son asked me to come, Maya replied. And because 19 years is a long time to carry hate. Richard looked away toward the window. I was protecting my family. You were protecting your pride, Maya corrected him. I'm sorry, Richard said suddenly. The words seemed to surprise even him. Maya's eyes widened. She hadn't expected an apology, even a weak one. What you did can't be fixed with sorry, she said. Richard nodded slightly. I know. They didn't speak again. Maya stayed for 10 more minutes, making small talk with Daniel about the hospital. When she left, Daniel walked her to the elevator. Thank you for coming, he said. I know it wasn't easy. I didn't come for him, Maya admitted. I came because I thought you might need someone. Daniel's heart jumped at her words. You still care? Maya looked into his eyes. I still remember. She stepped into the elevator and the doors closed between them. The next morning, Daniel arrived at Maya's small office near Harvard Square. Her foundation occupied half of the 3rd floor in an old brick building. The sign on the door read, Bennett Foundation, Empowering Women Through Business. Maya looked up from her desk, surprised to see him. Daniel, what are you doing here? He held up a stack of folders. You mentioned you were preparing materials for Eli's award event. I thought I could help. You don't have to do that. I want to. Daniel pulled up a chair. Consider it penance for my father's sins. Maya sighed but made room for him at her desk. They worked side by side, stuffing folders with program schedules and donor information. At first they were quiet and careful around each other. But slowly the familiar rhythm of working together brought back memories. Remember that economics project senior year? Daniel asked. We stayed up all night to finish it. Maya smiled. Professor Miller's face when we walked in with that giant presentation board. We got an A. We always did. Their hands brushed as they reached for the same folder. Both pulled back quickly, the touch sending electricity through them. Sorry, Daniel murmured. Maya tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. It's fine. They continued working, but something had shifted. The air between them felt charged, full of unspoken words and memories. Why did you really come today? Maya asked finally. Daniel stopped sorting papers. Because every minute I get to spend with you feels like a miracle. Because I thought you were dead for 19 years, and now you're here, alive and amazing. Maya looked down, unable to meet his intense gaze. Daniel, I know. It's complicated. We can't just pick up where we left off. But can you blame me for wanting to be near you? Before Maya could answer, the office door opened. Eli stood there, looking surprised to see Daniel. Mom? Oh, Mr. Cross, I didn't know you were here. Just helping your mom with some paperwork, Daniel said, trying to sound casual while his heart raced at the sight of his son. Eli nodded. Cool. I just stopped by to grab the extra tickets for tomorrow night. Maya handed him an envelope from her desk. Here you go. Front row seats for Professor Yates and your roommates. Thanks, Mom. Eli smiled, then turned to Daniel. Will you be at the award ceremony tomorrow, Mr. Cross? Daniel looked at Maya, unsure how to answer. Daniel will be there, Maya said. He's a major sponsor. Eli's face lit up. Great. I want to introduce you to some of my friends. They're starting a tech company, and they have questions about venture capital. After Eli left, Daniel turned to Maya. Thank you. For what? For letting me be part of his life, even if he doesn't know who I am. That evening, Eli arrived early to help set up for the award ceremony. He found his mother and Daniel sharing a laugh as they arranged name cards at the reception table. He paused, watching them. There was something familiar about the way they interacted, a comfort level that seemed strange for people who supposedly barely knew each other. But there was something else, too. Something that had been nagging at him since graduation. Daniel and he looked alike. Same eyes, same jawline, same laugh. When Daniel left to take a phone call, Eli approached his mother. You and Mr. Cross seem to get along well, he said casually. Maya nodded. He's been very supportive of the foundation. How long have you known him? Maya's hands stilled on the name cards. We met at Harvard, many years ago, before I was born. She looked at him sharply. Why do you ask? Eli shrugged, trying to seem relaxed. Just curious. You never talk about your college days. Maya returned to organizing the cards. Those days are long gone. Eli studied her face. Did you ever love him? The question hung in the air between them. Maya didn't look up as she answered. Once, she said softly. More than I should have. Meanwhile, in Daniel's penthouse across town, Vanessa Moore paced nervously. As Daniel's assistant and ex-fiancée, she had access to his email and calendar. Usually, she respected his privacy, but his strange behavior since the Harvard graduation had worried her. Daniel had been distracted, canceling meetings and disappearing for hours. Something was going on, and Vanessa needed to know what. She sat at his desk and logged into his email. Most messages were business as usual, but one caught her eye. It was addressed to Maya Bennett. Vanessa clicked on it, her stomach tightening as she read, Maya, I can't stop thinking about Eli, our son. Even after just a few conversations, I see so much of myself in him. And so much of you. What we lost can never be replaced, but perhaps we can build something new, something honest. Vanessa's hands shook as she copied the email. Our son, she whispered. Let's see how the world likes this secret. The next morning, Daniel picked Maya up at her apartment. They had planned to visit the old stone bridge where they used to meet as college students, their special place. The bridge spanned a small river just outside the city. It was early and mist hung over the water. They walked slowly across the weathered stones. This place hasn't changed, Maya said, trailing her fingers along the rough wall. Do you remember our first kiss? Daniel asked. Right here in the rain, Maya smiled. You were so nervous you dropped your umbrella in the river. I was nervous because I was kissing the most beautiful girl at Harvard. They stopped in the middle of the bridge, looking out over the water. The rising sun turned the mist golden. What really happened that night, Maya? Daniel asked quietly. The night of the explosion? Maya took a deep breath. I was packing to meet you. We were going to run away together, remember? Daniel nodded. They had planned to elope after graduation, knowing his father would never approve of their relationship. Richard came to my apartment, Maya continued. He showed me photos of us together. Said he had connections who could make sure I never graduated. Never got a job. Never had a future. But the explosion, that was luck. Or fate. I left to clear my head. When I came back, the building was on fire. My car had blown up in the parking lot. Gas leak, they said. Maya gave him a pointed look. That's what they said. Daniel closed his eyes. My father tried to kill you. I don't know. Maybe he just meant to scare me. But when I saw the news report, when I heard that everyone thought I was dead, I made a decision. You ran. Maya nodded. I was pregnant and terrified. I thought if Richard would blow up a car, what might he do to our baby? So I disappeared, changed my name, started over in Chicago. Why didn't you tell me you were alive? I would have protected you. You were 20 years old, Daniel. Your father controlled everything, your money, your future. What could you have done? Daniel had no answer. She was right. Back then, he had been completely under his father's thumb. I'm so sorry, he whispered. For all of it. Maya turned to face him. We can't change the past. But we're here now. Daniel reached for her hand. This time she didn't pull away. They stood together on the bridge, hands joined, the space between them slowly closing. When Daniel leaned forward, Maya met him halfway. Their kiss was gentle at first, then deeper. 19 years of loss and longing poured into one moment. They broke apart, both breathing hard. Maya's eyes shone with tears. I never stopped loving you, Daniel said, even when I thought you were gone. Maya reached up to touch his face. I had to stop loving you to survive, but I never forgot. They embraced gently, wordlessly forgiving the ghosts that had kept them apart. That night, Eli sat in his mother's home office, looking for a book she had recommended. As he searched the shelves, a worn Harvard yearbook caught his eye. He pulled it out, curious. His mother rarely talked about her college days. The yearbook was from 2007, the year before he was born. Eli flipped through the pages, pausing when he reached the senior section. There, under B, was his mother. She looked younger, her hair longer, her smile wider. The caption read, Maya Bennett, Economics, Phi Beta Kappa. Eli smiled. His mom had always been smart. He continued flipping pages, stopping suddenly when a photo made his heart skip a beat. It was a full-page spread about the spring formal. In the center was a photo of his mother in a beautiful blue dress, standing next to a young man in a tuxedo. The man had his arm around her waist. They were both laughing. The man was Daniel Cross. The caption read, Daniel Cross and Maya Bennett, class of 2007, engaged. His mother and Daniel Cross had been engaged. Eli stared at the photo, his mind racing. The resemblance between himself and Daniel. His mother's nervous behavior. The way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. My father's alive, he whispered, and he's been right in front of me. The next morning, Eli pounded on the door of Daniel's penthouse. When Daniel opened it, looking surprised, Eli pushed past him into the apartment. Eli? Were you ever going to tell me? Eli demanded, his voice shaking. Or was this some kind of game for you? Daniel's face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. I found the yearbook, Eli said. You and my mom were engaged. You're my father, aren't you? Daniel couldn't speak. The moment he'd both feared and hoped for had arrived, but not like this. Not with his son looking at him with such anger and hurt. Eli, please sit down, he said finally. Let me explain. Explain what? That you've been playing hero? Funding my scholarship? Pretending to care about my mom's foundation? Was it all just guilt money? No, it's not like that at all. The door burst open again. Maya rushed in, out of breath. Eli, stop! Eli turned to his mother, tears in his eyes. You lied to me my whole life. You told me my father was dead. I was trying to protect you, Maya said. From what? From knowing that my father is Daniel Cross? That I'm the heir to one of the biggest fortunes in America? From the pain I went through, Maya said, her voice breaking. From a man who threatened to destroy us both. My grandfather, Eli said, the realization dawning on him. Daniel stepped closer. Richard made your mother disappear. He made us both believe she died in that explosion. I thought I'd lost you both forever. So when did you find out the truth? Eli demanded. At graduation? Or did you know before? At graduation, Daniel said. When I saw you on that stage, it was like looking at myself 20 years ago. Then I saw your mother and my world turned upside down. Eli looked between them, his anger giving way to confusion. So these past few weeks, You've been what? Getting to know each other again? Trying to figure out what to do, Maya said. How to tell you the truth without hurting you. Well, great job with that, Eli said bitterly. Finding out from a yearbook was so much better. He turned and headed for the door. Eli, please, Daniel called after him. Don't go. Not like this. But Eli was already gone, the door slamming behind him. Maya and Daniel stood in the suddenly quiet apartment, the truth finally out in the open. I'm sorry, Daniel said. This is all my fault, Maya shook her head. We both made choices. Right or wrong, we thought we were doing what was best. What now? Daniel asked. Maya looked at the closed door where their son had disappeared. Now we give him time, and we hope that someday he can forgive us both. Outside, Eli walked blindly through the streets of Boston, his world shattered into pieces. Everything he thought he knew about his life, his mother, his very identity. It was all built on lies. His father wasn't dead. His father was Daniel Cross, and somehow that changed everything. That evening, Vanessa sat alone in her apartment, staring at her computer screen. Her finger hovered over the send button. The email contained photos of Daniel and Maya at the bridge, along with snippets from his private message about our son. He'll hate me for this, she whispered to herself. But jealousy burned inside her. For 3 years she had tried to win Daniel's heart. Now she knew why she had failed. He had never stopped loving Maya. With a quick tap, she sent the email to a reporter at the Boston Globe. Billionaire's hidden family, read the subject line. By morning, the story was everywhere. Daniel Cross discovers secret son at Harvard. Graduation. Billionaire's lost love returns from the dead. Cross family scandal, the hidden heir, Daniel, woke to his phone buzzing with messages. When he saw the headlines, his stomach dropped. He immediately called Maya. Have you seen the news? He asked when she answered. It's all over my office, Maya said, her voice tight with stress. Someone leaked photos of us at the bridge. They're calling Eli the hidden heir to the Cross fortune. This is my fault, Daniel said. I'll fix it. How? The damage is done. The foundation board just called an emergency meeting. They're suspending me for ethical concerns. Daniel closed his eyes, guilt washing over him. Maya, I'm so sorry. I have to go. The reporters are outside my apartment building. After they hung up, Daniel threw his phone against the wall. It shattered, just like everything else in his life. Vanessa arrived at his penthouse an hour later, her face a perfect mask of concern. Daniel, I just heard the news. Are you okay? He looked at her, seeing the guilt in her eyes. It was you, wasn't it? She flinched but didn't deny it. I was worried about you. You've been acting strange since graduation. So you went through my emails? You sold my private life to the press. I thought the public deserved to know. Get out, Daniel said coldly. You're fired. Vanessa's face crumpled. Daniel, please, get out. After she left, Daniel called his public relations team. Set up a press conference, he ordered. This afternoon. And find me Eli Bennett. I need to talk to him before things get worse. The press conference was held in the lobby of Cross Enterprises. Dozens of reporters packed the room, cameras flashing as Daniel stepped up to the podium. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I'd like to address the recent stories about my personal life. He took a deep breath. 19 years ago, I was engaged to Maya Bennett. We were young and in love. After graduation, she disappeared in what I believed was a tragic accident. I mourned her for years. Camera shutters clicked rapidly. What I didn't know was that Maya was pregnant when she disappeared. She felt threatened by my family and chose to protect our unborn child by starting a new life elsewhere. Daniel paused, looking directly into the cameras. If anyone deceived the world, it was me. I failed to protect the woman I loved. I failed to recognize my own son when I met him. The blame lies with me, not with Maya or Eli, who are innocent victims in this situation. A reporter raised her hand. Are you confirming that Eli Bennett is your biological son? Yes, Daniel said, and I'm proud to be his father, even if I haven't earned the right to call myself that yet. Will Eli inherit the Cross fortune? Daniel shook his head. That's Eli's decision to make, not mine. But I've already resigned from my position as chair of the Cross Foundation. I want to make it clear that Maya Bennett has built her own successful life and foundation through hard work and determination. She never asked for anything from me or my family. As the questions continued, Daniel remained calm and took full responsibility. When asked about his father's role, he simply said, "That's a private family matter." Across town, Maya watched the press conference on her laptop. Tears streamed down her face as Daniel defended her, protected Eli, and sacrificed his own reputation. Later that day, Professor Yates knocked on her apartment door. At 55, Alan Yates still had the kind eyes and patient demeanor that had made him such a good mentor to Maya in college. "I saw the news," he said, stepping inside. "How are you holding up?" Maya gestured to her laptop. "Did you see the press conference?" Yates nodded. "He did the right thing." "He always wanted to," Maya said softly. "I just never gave him the chance." They sat in her small living room, the afternoon sun casting long shadows. "I keep thinking about all the years we lost," Maya said. "All the birthdays and holidays Eli could have had with his father." "You can't change the past," Yates replied. "But you can choose your future." "What future? My foundation board has suspended me. Reporters are camped outside. Eli won't answer my calls." "So you're giving up?" Yates asked. "That doesn't sound like the Maya Bennett I know." Maya looked at him, a small smile breaking through her tears. "What would you do?" "I'd remember that love is stronger than fear, stronger than pride, even stronger than 19 years of separation. He's finally the man I wished he'd be," Maya said softly. "And you're not the woman you used to be," Yates replied. Maya nodded, understanding what he meant. She was no longer the frightened young woman who ran from danger. She was stronger now, braver. "Maybe we both grew at the same time," she said. Maya looked at an old photo on her bookshelf. It showed her and Daniel at Harvard, young and happy and full of dreams. Meanwhile, Daniel drove through Boston, searching for Eli. He had tried calling, but Eli's phone went straight to voicemail. He checked Eli's apartment, the campus, even the foundation office. As the sun began to set, Daniel had one more idea. He drove to the Charles River, to a bench where he used to sit and think when he was a student. It had been his quiet place, his thinking spot. And there, sitting alone on the bench, was Eli. Daniel parked his car and approached slowly, his heart hammering in his chest. Eli didn't look up, even though he must have heard the footsteps. "Mind if I sit?" Daniel asked. Eli shrugged but moved over slightly. Daniel sat down, leaving space between them. For a long time, neither spoke. They watched the river flow past, golden in the setting sun. "I've waited 19 years for this talk," Daniel finally said, his hands trembling slightly. "I just wish it could have happened differently." "Why didn't you tell me right away?" Eli asked. "At graduation?" "I was in shock, and your mother asked for time to figure things out." Eli kicked at a stone near his foot. "My whole life is a lie." "No," Daniel said firmly. "Your life with your mother, the love she gave you, the man she raised you to be, that's all real. But you should have been there." "Yes, I should have." Daniel told Eli everything. About falling in love with Maya at Harvard, about planning to elope, about his father's controlling nature and the fear that drove Maya away. "I was weak back then," Daniel admitted. "I let my father control my life. I wasn't strong enough to stand up to him, to protect your mother the way she deserved." Eli listened silently, his face unreadable. "I won't make excuses," Daniel continued. "I could blame everyone else. My father, the circumstances, even your mother for keeping the truth from me. But the fact is, I failed you both. And I'm more sorry than you'll ever know." Eli turned to look at Daniel directly. "You could have blamed everyone else, but you didn't." In that moment, something shifted between them. A small opening, a tiny crack in the wall that separated father and son. "I saw the press conference," Eli said. "Why did you resign from your foundation?" "Because some things are more important than money or status," Daniel said simply. "Like getting to know my son. If you'll let me." Eli didn't answer right away. He stood up and walked to the edge of the water, hands in his pockets. "I've spent my whole life wondering about you," he said finally, "making up stories about who you were, what you were like, whether you would have been proud of me." Daniel joined him by the water's edge. "I am proud of you. So proud it hurts." Eli's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to call you. You can call me Daniel." "For now," Eli nodded. He extended his hand and Daniel took it. The handshake turned into a hug. Awkward at first, then fierce and tearful. "I'm sorry," Daniel whispered into his son's ear. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there." "You're here now," Eli said, his voice choked with emotion. 2 days later, Daniel received a call from the hospital. His father was asking for him. Richard had suffered a second, more serious heart attack. The doctors said he didn't have much time. Daniel drove to the hospital, his feelings a complicated mess of anger, grief, and pity. When he entered his father's room, Richard looked even smaller than before, his skin pale and waxy against the white sheets. "Daniel," Richard whispered. "You came." "Of course I came," Daniel said, sitting beside the bed. "I need to tell you something." Richard's voice was weak, each word an effort. "In my desk?" "Top drawer. There's a letter for you. You can tell me yourself when you're better." Richard gave a small, sad smile. "We both know that's not going to happen." He reached for Daniel's hand. "I was wrong. About everything. I thought I was protecting our family name, but I was just a scared, prejudiced old man." Daniel squeezed his father's hand. "Save your strength." "No time for that now," Richard said. "I want you to know I'm proud of you. For standing up to me, for being a better man than I ever was." Tears filled Daniel's eyes. Despite everything, this was still his father, the man who had taught him to ride a bike, who had cheered at his baseball games, who had in his own flawed way loved him. "I forgive you." "Dad," Daniel said softly. Richard closed his eyes, a tear sliding down his cheek. "Tell Maya and Eli, I'm sorry. For everything." Later that night, Richard Cross passed away peacefully in his sleep. He had asked Daniel for forgiveness, and in those final hours Daniel had given it. The funeral was small and private. Just Daniel, a few close family friends, and his father's business partners. And to his surprise, Maya. She arrived quietly, dressed in a simple black dress. She stood at the back of the church during the service, then approached Daniel at the cemetery. "Thank you for coming," he said. "You didn't have to." "I know," Maya replied. "But 19 years is a long time to hold on to hate. It was time to let it go." They stood side by side as Richard's coffin was lowered into the ground. "Did Eli come with you?" Daniel asked, looking around. "No, he's not ready for that yet, but he asks about you every day." Daniel nodded, understanding. "And you? How are you doing?" "The foundation board is meeting tomorrow to discuss my suspension. Your press conference helped, but the damage is done. I'm sorry. Don't be. Maybe this is where healing begins." After the funeral, Daniel showed Maya the letter Richard had left for him. In it, Richard confessed to arranging the car explosion, to threatening Maya, to orchestrating her disappearance. He also left his entire fortune to Daniel, with instructions to make things right. "What will you do?" Maya asked when she finished reading. "Whatever it takes to fix what he broke," Daniel replied. "Starting with your foundation." Maya shook her head. "I don't want your money, Daniel. It's not about money. It's about justice." That night, Maya and Daniel met Eli for dinner at a quiet restaurant. It was awkward at first, the three of them together for the first time as a family. But as the evening progressed, the tension eased. Eli told stories about his childhood. Daniel shared memories of his own youth. Maya watched them both, seeing the similarities in their gestures, their smiles, the way they both talked with their hands when excited. "I have an idea," Eli said toward the end of the meal. "I've been thinking about starting a mentorship program for underprivileged kids who want to go to college. Maybe we could work on it together." The hope in his voice was clear. He was offering a bridge, a way for them to build a relationship. "I'd like that very much," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. Maya reached across the table and took both their hands in hers. "I think that's a wonderful idea." In that moment, sitting in a quiet corner of a Boston restaurant, they weren't a billionaire, a foundation director, and a Harvard graduate. They were simply a family, broken, imperfect, but healing. The road ahead would be long and sometimes difficult. Trust would have to be rebuilt. Wounds would need time to heal, but they had taken the first steps together. Weeks passed. Slowly, life began to settle into a new normal. True to his word, Daniel arranged for an anonymous donation to Maya's foundation, a scholarship in her name for young women from disadvantaged backgrounds. With the new funding and Daniel's public support, the board voted to reinstate Maya as director. Eli started working on his mentorship program with Daniel's help and Maya's guidance. They converted a floor of the Cross building into offices for the new initiative, calling it the Second Chance Program. The scandal gradually faded from the headlines. New gossip replaced the old, and people moved on to other stories. But for Daniel, Maya, and Eli, the story was just beginning. One afternoon, Daniel visited Maya's office bringing flowers, simple daisies. Her favorite from college, Mr. Cross, her assistant announced. "He's brought you flowers." Maya looked up from her desk, smiling when she saw the daisies. "Thank you, Lisa. Please send him in." Daniel entered, looking handsome in a casual sweater and jeans, gone were the stiff business suits and formal ties. This was the Daniel she remembered from college, relaxed, genuine. "Daisies," she said, taking the bouquet. "You remembered. I remember everything about you," Daniel replied. "Your favorite flower, your favorite song, how you take your coffee." "You finally learned subtlety," she teased, arranging the flowers in a vase. "Better late than never." He sat on the edge of her desk. "I just came from meeting with Eli. The program is really coming together. He's amazing, Maya. You did an incredible job raising him." Pride shone in her eyes. "He gets his drive from you. His stubbornness, too. Poor kid." They laughed together and it felt good, natural. "Right, Maya," Daniel said, his voice growing serious. "I know we can't go back to how things were. Too much has happened. Too much time has passed. But I want you to know that I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day." Maya's heart beat faster. "Daniel, you don't have to say anything," he continued quickly. "I just needed you to know. Whatever happens next, whatever you decide, I'll respect it." He stood to leave, but Maya caught his hand. 19 years is a long time," she said softly. "But some things don't change." She stepped closer, looking up into his eyes. "I spent so many years convincing myself that I didn't love you anymore, that I couldn't love you, but seeing you with Eli, watching you fight for us, for our family." She took a deep breath. "The truth is, I never stopped loving you either." Daniel's eyes filled with hope. "Where do we go from here?" Maya smiled. "Forward, together." He leaned down and she rose to meet him. Their kiss was gentle, a promise of new beginnings. Outside the window, Boston continued its busy rhythm. People rushed along the sidewalks, cars honked in traffic. Life moved at its relentless pace. But in that small office, time seemed to stand still for just a moment, long enough for two hearts to find each other again after 19 years apart. A year passed. Seasons changed. The trees around Harvard grew green, then gold, then bare, then green again. And slowly, day by day, 3 separate lives wove themselves into one family story. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Daniel's new home. It wasn't the cold penthouse he once owned, but a warm, inviting house near the Charles River. Books filled the shelves. Photos covered the walls. It felt like a home, not just a place to sleep. Daniel stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. Today was important. Eli would be giving the keynote speech at Harvard's special alumni weekend, the same stage where they had first seen each other, now the place where their new beginning would be celebrated. His phone buzzed with a message from Maya. "We still on for breakfast before the ceremony?" Daniel smiled and texted back, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." So much had changed in a year. The scandal had faded. New gossip replaced the old. People forgot about the billionaire and his long-lost family, moving on to fresher stories. But for Daniel, Maya, and Eli, the story was just beginning. Daniel drove to the small cafe where they had agreed to meet. Through the window, he could see them already there. Maya and Eli sitting across from each other, laughing about something. His family. The word still felt new and precious to him. The bell jingled as he entered. Maya looked up, her smile brightening when she saw him. At 36, she was more beautiful than ever. The past year had eased the worry lines from her face, replacing them with laugh lines around her eyes. "Sorry I'm late," Daniel said, sliding into the seat next to Maya. "Traffic was terrible. We ordered you coffee," Eli said. "Black, 2 sugars, right?" Daniel's heart warmed. A year ago, Eli hadn't known how he took his coffee. Now he remembered small details like this. "Progress, perfect, thanks." Daniel took a sip. "Nervous about today?" Eli shrugged, but his bouncing leg under the table gave him away. "A little. It's a big crowd." "You'll be amazing," Maya assured him. "Just like at graduation. Except this time I know who my dad is," Eli said with a small smile. The words hung in the air. Dad. Eli had started using the word a few months ago, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. Each time it felt like a gift to Daniel. Speaking of that, Eli continued, I wanted to talk to you both about something. He pulled a folder from his backpack and placed it on the table. I've been thinking about my name. Maya and Daniel exchanged glances. Your name? Maya asked. Yeah, I've been Eli Bennett my whole life, but I'm thinking about changing it to Eli Bennett Cross. He looked at Daniel. If that's okay with you. Daniel's throat tightened with emotion. More than okay. It would be an honor. Mom? Eli turned to Maya. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. It's your decision, Eli, but I think it sounds perfect. After breakfast, they walked together to Harvard Yard. The campus was busy with returning alumni and their families. People nodded at them as they passed. Some still whispered, but most just smiled. I need to go check in with the event staff, Eli said when they reached the main quad. I'll see you both after the speech. We'll be in the front row, Daniel promised. Eli hugged his mother, then turned to Daniel. Their hug was brief but solid, man to man, father to son. As Eli walked away, Maya slipped her hand into Daniel's. He's really something, isn't he? Just like his mother, Daniel replied, squeezing her hand. They found their seats near the stage. The spring day was perfect. Clear blue skies, a gentle breeze, flowers blooming in the carefully maintained gardens. Hard to believe it's been a year, Maya said softly. Daniel nodded. The best year of my life. Really? Even with all the drama and headlines? Even with all that. Because I found you both. The dean approached the podium to begin the ceremony. The crowd quieted as she welcomed everyone and introduced the day's keynote speaker. Eli Bennett, Harvard class of last year, founder of the Second Chance Mentorship Program. The audience applauded as Eli walked confidently to the podium. Gone was the nervous boy from a year ago. In his place stood a young man who knew exactly who he was and where he came from. Thank you, Dean Richards, Eli began. When I stood on this stage at graduation last year, I thought I knew exactly who I was and where I was going. I was Eli Bennett, son of Maya Bennett, raised by a single mother who built something amazing from nothing. The crowd was silent, hanging on his words. What I didn't know was that life had a surprise waiting for me. That day I met my father for the first time, though neither of us knew it then. Eli looked directly at Daniel. Finding my father and having him find me changed everything, but not in the ways you might think. Eli went on to talk about the Second Chance program, how it gave kids from tough backgrounds a path to college, how it taught them that second chances weren't just for fixing mistakes, but for building something better than before. We all deserve second chances, Eli said, his voice strong and clear. Not just kids who want to go to college, but families torn apart by secrets and fear. Parents separated by circumstance, love interrupted by time. Maya's hand tightened around Daniel's. Tears shimmered in her eyes. This past year taught me that it's never too late to rebuild what was broken, never too late to forgive, never too late to become a family, even if the path that brings you together isn't straight or simple. When Eli finished his speech, the audience rose to their feet, applauding loudly. Daniel and Maya stood too, their faces wet with tears, their hearts bursting with pride. Later, after the ceremony, the three of them walked along the Charles River. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the water. Students lounged on the grass, studying or chatting or just enjoying the spring day. Professor Yates loved your speech, Maya told Eli. He said it was the best keynote he's heard in 20 years at Harvard. He's just biased because he's known me since I was born, Eli said, but his smile showed his pleasure at the praise. I've been meaning to ask, Daniel said. Have you decided about medical school? The acceptance letters came last week, right? Eli nodded. Yeah, I got into Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and Stanford. That's amazing, Maya exclaimed. Have you made a choice? I'm leaning toward Johns Hopkins, Eli said. Their program for underserved communities is exactly what I want to focus on. Daniel felt a twinge of sadness at the thought of Eli moving to Baltimore, but he pushed it aside. That's a great choice. Their program is the best in the country. It's because of you, you know, Eli said, glancing at his father. Watching you give up the Cross Empire to do what's right, it showed me that helping others matters more than money or power. Daniel's chest tightened with emotion. I didn't do anything special. You did to me, Eli said simply. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, just enjoying being together. So, Eli said eventually, a mischievous smile playing on his lips, When are you two finally going to get married again? Maya nearly tripped over her own feet. Eli, what? You've been back together for months now. Dad practically lives at our place anyway. Why not make it official? Daniel laughed at Maya's flustered expression. He's got a point, you know. You two are ganging up on me, Maya protested, but she was smiling. Seriously, though, Eli continued, I'm starting at Johns Hopkins in August. It would be nice to see you both settled before I go. Daniel stopped walking and turned to Maya. The setting sun cast a golden glow over her face, reminding him of their college days when they would watch the sunset from their special bridge. What do you say, Maya? He asked softly. Want to pick up where we left off 19 years ago? Maya looked at him, her eyes filled with love and just a hint of fear. Do you really think we can? So much has happened. That's kind of the point of second chances, Daniel said. They come after you've been through something hard. They mean more because of what you've overcome to get there. Eli backed away slightly. I'm just gonna check out that tree over there. Give you two a minute. When he was out of earshot, Daniel took both Maya's hands in his. I'm not the same man I was at 20, and you're not the same woman. We've both grown, changed, been shaped by the years apart. But the one thing that hasn't changed is how I feel about you. Daniel, I know it's fast. I know we've only been back in each other's lives for a year. But Maya, I lost you once. I don't want to waste another day. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, she admitted. What if it doesn't work? What if we hurt Eli? Eli's a grown man now. He wants us to be happy. Daniel squeezed her hands. And yes, there are no guarantees, but I think we've both learned that playing it safe doesn't protect you from getting hurt. Sometimes it just keeps you from the joy you deserve. Maya looked over at their son, who was pretending to be very interested in a nearby tree, while obviously trying to hear every word. She laughed through her tears. Is that a yes? Daniel asked hopefully. It's a maybe, Maya said, but her smile told a different story. Ask me again over dinner tonight, Daniel grinned. Deal! They called Eli back over, and the three continued their walk along the river. The future stretched before them, uncertain but full of promise, just like the river itself. That night, Daniel took Maya to dinner at their old favorite restaurant from college. It was still there, though the menu had changed and the owners were different. But the corner table by the window was just the same. Remember our first date here? Daniel asked as the waiter poured their wine. Maya nodded. You were so nervous you knocked over the salt shaker, and you told me it was bad luck unless I threw some over my shoulder. So you did, and it hit the waiter right in the face. They both laughed at the memory. It felt good to remember the happy times, to know that their story had begun with joy before the pain. I've been thinking about what you said earlier, Maya said after they ordered. About second chances. Daniel waited, giving her space to continue. When I ran away all those years ago, I thought I was protecting Eli and myself. Maya played with the stem of her wine glass. But I was also protecting my heart. If I disappeared, I couldn't get hurt again. I understand that, Daniel said softly, but hiding doesn't actually protect you. It just keeps you from really living. Maya looked up, meeting his eyes. I don't want to hide anymore, Daniel. He reached across the table, taking her hand. What are you saying, Maya? I'm saying yes. Her smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. If you're still asking. Daniel's heart soared. Really? Really? Maya squeezed his hand. Let's pick up where we left off. Let's be a family, you, me, and Eli. Daniel couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. He simply nodded, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Later that night they walked hand in hand across their old bridge. The moon reflected on the water below, casting everything in silver light. I have something for you, Daniel said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's eyes widened. Daniel, you didn't need to... He opened the box to reveal a simple gold ring with a small diamond. It's not as fancy as the one I gave you back in college, but it means more. It's perfect, Maya whispered. I've carried this with me every day since I found you again, Daniel admitted, waiting for the right moment. He got down on one knee just as he had 20 years ago in this very spot. Maya Bennett, will you marry me? Again? Maya laughed through her tears. Yes, again and always. He slipped the ring on her finger, then stood to kiss her. As their lips met, the years between them seemed to melt away. They were no longer the broken people who had found each other again by chance. They were simply Daniel and Maya, finally home where they belonged. Summer passed in a whirlwind of planning. They decided on a small wedding in Maya's backyard, just family and close friends. No media, no fuss, no pressure. Eli threw himself into helping with the preparations before he left for medical school. He seemed determined to see his parents married before he went to Baltimore. "What about this for centerpieces?" he asked one evening, showing Maya a photo of simple arrangements of white roses and baby's breath. "When did you become a wedding planner?" she teased, but the idea was perfect. "I just want it to be special," Eli said. "You both deserve that." August arrived, bringing with it 2 important days: Eli's departure for Johns Hopkins and the wedding. The night before Eli left, the 3 of them sat on the back porch of Maya's house, drinking lemonade and watching fireflies dance in the yard. "I can't believe you're leaving tomorrow," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. "The house is going to be so quiet without you." "I'm only a train ride away," Eli reminded her. "And you'll be busy with your new husband." Daniel smiled. "We're still going to miss you like crazy." "I know." Eli looked between them, his eyes serious. "Before I go, I wanted to say something. About this past year." Daniel and Maya waited, sensing the importance of whatever he wanted to share. "When I found out the truth, I was so angry," Eli began. "I felt like my whole life had been a lie, like I didn't know who I was anymore." Maya reached for his hand. "I'm so sorry, Eli." "No, let me finish," he squeezed her hand. "I was angry, but now I understand. You both did the best you could with an impossible situation. And the thing is, finding out Dad was alive didn't erase who I was. It just added to it." Daniel swallowed hard against the emotion rising in his throat. "Mom, you gave me a good life, the best life. You worked so hard, sacrificed so much." Eli's voice cracked slightly. "And Dad, watching you fight for us this past year, seeing how much you love Mom, how much you wanted to know me, it showed me what kind of man I want to be." "You're already that man," Daniel said. "A better man than I ever was at your age." "That's because I had both of you. In different ways, maybe, but still both of you." Maya wiped tears from her cheeks. "When did you get so wise?" Eli smiled. "Must be those good Bennett Cross genes." The next day they drove Eli to the train station. The platform was crowded with other students heading to colleges up and down the East Coast. "Call us when you get there," Maya said, straightening Eli's collar even though it didn't need straightening. "I will, Mom." Eli hugged her tightly. "Try not to cry until the train leaves, okay?" "It's embarrassing." "No promises," Maya said, already sniffling. Eli turned to Daniel. "Take care of her for me?" "Always," Daniel promised, pulling his son into a hug. "And remember, your room at home is always waiting for you." "Home," Eli repeated, smiling at the word. "I like how that sounds." The boarding call came. Last hugs were exchanged. Last pieces of advice given. Then Eli was on the train, waving from a window as it pulled out of the station. Maya cried openly as the train disappeared down the tracks. Daniel held her close, his own eyes wet with tears. "He'll be okay," he whispered into her hair. "I know," Maya replied. "That's not why I'm crying." "Then why?" She looked up at him, a smile breaking through her tears. "Because for the first time, I'm not doing this alone. We're sending our son out into the world together." Daniel kissed her forehead gently. "Together!" "I like how that sounds." The wedding day dawned clear and bright. Maya's backyard had been transformed with white chairs, an arch of flowers, and strings of lights waiting for evening. Inside the house, Maya stood in front of her bedroom mirror while her friend Lisa helped with her dress. It was simple and elegant, an ivory sheath that skimmed her curves, with delicate lace at the bodice and hem. "You look beautiful," Lisa said, arranging Maya's hair in a loose updo with a few curls framing her face. "I feel beautiful," Maya replied, and it was true. At 36, she felt more confident and complete than she ever had at 20. A knock at the door made them both turn. "Mom, can I come in?" Maya's heart leapt at the sound of Eli's voice. "Eli, you're supposed to be in Baltimore." The door opened, and there he stood, handsome in a dark blue suit. "Did you really think I'd miss my parents' wedding?" "I took the early train back." Maya rushed to hug him, careful not to wrinkle her dress. "This is the best surprise ever." "Dad doesn't know I'm here," Eli said with a grin. "I wanted to surprise him too. He's going to be over the moon." Eli studied his mother, his eyes filling with pride. "You look amazing, Mom." "Thank you, sweetheart." She touched his cheek gently. "Are you ready to walk me down the aisle?" "More than ready." Downstairs, guests were gathering in the yard. Professor Yates chatted with Maya's colleagues from the foundation. Daniel's friends from the business world mingled with Maya's neighbors. Different worlds coming together, just like Daniel and Maya themselves. Daniel waited under the flower arch, nervous and excited all at once. He wore a light grey suit with a blue tie that matched his eyes. His hands fidgeted with the cuffs of his jacket. The music began, a string quartet playing the song that had been their song in college. Daniel looked up, expecting to see Maya walking toward him alone as planned. Instead, he saw his son in a matching blue suit, offering his arm to Maya. Eli caught his father's eye and smiled, a smile full of love and acceptance and forgiveness. Daniel's heart nearly burst with joy. Maya and Eli walked slowly down the makeshift aisle. Friends and family beamed at them. But Maya only saw Daniel, the boy she had loved, the man she had lost, the person who had found his way back to her against all odds. When they reached the arch, Eli kissed his mother's cheek and placed her hand in Daniel's. "Who gives this woman to be married?" the minister asked, following the traditional words even though they had planned to skip that part. "I do," Eli said clearly. "Her son." There wasn't a dry eye in the gathering as Eli stepped aside to stand as his father's best man. The ceremony was short and sweet. They exchanged simple vows they had written themselves, promises to love and cherish, to be honest and brave, to face whatever came next as a team. "With this ring I thee wed," Daniel said, sliding a gold band onto Maya's finger to join her engagement ring. "Again and forever." "With this ring I thee wed," Maya echoed, placing a matching band on his finger. "Again and forever." "By the power vested in me," the minister said, smiling at them both, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Daniel, you may kiss your bride." Daniel cupped Maya's face in his hands, looking into her eyes for a long moment before their lips met in a tender kiss. The guests erupted in cheers and applause. As they turned to face their friends and family, the minister announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Cross." The reception lasted well into the night. There was dancing and cake and champagne toasts. Eli gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry at the same time. "To my parents," he said, raising his glass, "who taught me that love can survive anything. Even death lies 19 years apart. May your second chance be even better than the first." As the evening wound down, Daniel and Maya slipped away to their special bridge. The stars shimmered above them, and the river flowed below, constant and ever-changing like life itself. "Happy?" Daniel asked, wrapping his arms around his wife from behind as they gazed at the water. "More than I ever thought possible," Maya said, leaning back against his chest. "We lost 19 years, Daniel said softly. "But we found forever." Maya turned in his arms to face him. "I used to think time was the enemy, that it only took things away from us, and now I think time gave us exactly what we needed. It made you stronger. It made me braver. It gave us Eli." Daniel brushed a curl from her face. "Maybe everything happened exactly as it was supposed to." "Maybe," Maya agreed. "Or maybe we just made the best of what happened. Either way, here we are." "Here we are," Maya echoed, rising on tiptoe to kiss her husband as bells from a nearby church rang out, marking the hour. The sound carried across the water, across the campus where they had first met, across the years that had separated them, across the new life they were building together. 3 lives that had once been torn apart, now reunited at last. Not as they once were, but as something stronger, deeper, truer. A family, the lost family, found